Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. A collapse of leadership in America. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Yesterday, we learned that the Department of Defense, headed by former Senator Chuck Hagel, has stopped payments to the families of military people killed in Afghanistan. That is an absolute disgrace. No excuse for it. The two men responsible are the Commander-in-Chief, President Obama, and Secretary Hagel. The President has the power by executive order to pay for anything he wants, despite the government shutdown. Hagel allowed it to happen. He should resign immediately. The situation is so outrageous that Ken Fisher, who heads up the Fisher House charity that helps military families, says that his organization will pay the families' expenses until the government wises up. Military benefits to the families of those killed in action are about $100,000. And we know of 26 service families that have so far been denied. We have the names of 6 military people who are being dishonored by their own government. Lieutenant Jennifer Moreno, Sergeant Patrick Hawkins, Sergeant Joseph Peters, Private First Class Cody Patterson, Lance Corporal Jeremiah Collins, and Private Anil Lopez. These brave Americans sacrificed their lives for this country. And they get this, they get this. The whole debacle once again points out that President Obama's leadership capacity is in steep decline. We saw it in the Syrian situation. We're seeing it again in the government shutdown. A new Associated Press poll says the president's job approval rating has now slipped to 37%, the lowest point in his tenure. And while the majority polled continue to blame the Republicans for the government shutdown, the gap is closing. And by the way, the AP is one of the most liberal news agencies in the country. It has backed President Obama all the way. It must have pained them to release this poll. And the headline they put out, bury the lead. The headline says, poll, GOP gets the blame in shutdown. So you can see how fair the AP really is. The entire Obamacare government shutdown thing is a catastrophe. There's no question Obamacare is not ready to be rolled out. All the evidence says that. If the president would simply admit it and delay the individual mandate for a year, the impasse would be solved. But Mr. Obama is too stubborn to do that, and Americans are starting to catch on. In the meantime, major damage is being done to the country and to the families of our service people killed in action. There's no excuse, as I said, there is no excuse. Hagel must go. He's lost all credibility among the military, and the president should order those payments immediately. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us from Washington, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, and from Boston, Colonel David Hunt, both are Fox News analysts. Colonel Hunt, who's most responsible for this, in your opinion?
Well, it starts with the Commander-in-Chief. We're at war, Bill. We've been at war for over 11 years. And by the way, I had this, my family we lost my brother in 1968. We went through this kind of tragedy. So you get notified that your family member has been killed. And then the next phone call you get is, oh, by the way, we're not going to pay for the funeral. I'm ashamed of our government right now. The Commander-in-Chief and through the chain of command, like Hagel, are absolutely responsible. We have money in the Department of Defense. This should never have got to this spot. And now we have families suffering, have to put up with this crap in the middle of trying to bury their loved ones. It's unheard of. It's never happened, by the way.
No, I don't think it's ever happened that I know of. I mean, maybe in the Civil War it happened, but never in modern times has this kind of callous behavior been put forth. Now, today, Jay Carney, and we're gonna talk to Ed Henry right after you guys, said, well, look, the president really didn't know about this. And now that he knows about it, Colonel Peters, he's going to correct it. We're going to reimburse the Fisher House for their expenses. The government's going to make it all right. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a disgraceful scandal. I agree that Hagel certainly should go, because if he didn't know about it, it means he's not in control of his department. If he did know about it and did nothing, then, my God, he's got
to go. He had to know. Hagel had to know. I'm not sure President Obama knew or not, because he's under such, intense pressure from all sides. It's possible he didn't know. But Hagel surely knew, and it's Hagel's duty to tell the Commander-in-Chief, hey, we can't have this.
May I just point out, Bill, that while the Pentagon and the administration has refused to pay this death benefit to the families, the bereaved families of our fallen soldiers and Marines, Secretary of Defense never closed his executive dining room in which military members are basically chefs and servants, and it's a nice place. I've eaten there. Hey, sockeye salmon cooked to order. How would you like it, sir?
Well, the truth is.
No, but my point is, why can we keep the executive dining room open and not pay the family benefits, at least in solidarity?
But it's a larger. The point you're making is a larger point.
For a week.
The point you're making is a larger point. We are still fighting in Afghanistan, and that hasn't stopped. All the military operations are underway. The Pentagon is operating, even though the government is shut down, because the money's still there. Okay, they have money. This is just an unbelievable screw up, Colonel Hunt. It's an unbelievable screw up. But it goes to leadership. It goes to how out of control the federal government is right now. Am I wrong?
No, it just absolutely goes to leadership. Starting with the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, through Hagel, right down to the chiefs. And, Bill, there's no outrage. Where is a uniformed
general? Oh, there's outrage among the folks. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but there's no outrage about people in the Department of Defense, the chairmen of the Joint Chief. You have seen no one talk about this inside the government except.
But don't you think there's outrage among the military? Don't you think every single veteran in this country is going, oh, look, they're hiding. We don't know where Hagel is. He's hiding somewhere in the dining room, probably, Colonel Peters. He's probably under the table. All right? But every American, even, as far left as you can get, nobody can justify this, Colonel Peters.
Well, look, Bill, I think you and I disagree on something. You think this is just incompetence. My scenario, and none of us really know, is that some political commissar at the Pentagon or the White House thought this was one more way to embarrass Republicans and show how bad the shutdown is. And the shutdown is bad. And I think it backfired on them. Obama's in shock. The White House is in shock because they're taking the hit on this, as they should. But it is indicative of the disdain with which this administration regards the men and women in uniform. It regards them as janitors. They have to clean up the international messes. Oh, but you don't invite them to dinner at the penthouse.
And I'll give you the last word, Colonel Hunt.
I'm ashamed for our country. What these families are going through is tragic enough to have gotten that phone call, and they made 26 of them, to say, by the way, we're not going to pay. People, beginning with Hagel, should be fired, and this needs to be corrected immediately. Thank God for people like the Fisher House, Wounded Warriors, and all the people that back up. But to have this happen at any time, but during a war, it's unfathomable and shameful.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much. Next on the rundown.